Hi, and welcome to another installment of Commuter Corner, brought to you by the Delaware County Transportation Management Association. These informative mini-seminars are designed to educate businesses on transportation demand management and provide alternatives and strategies to eliminate the traditional one-car commuting. I'm your host, Cecile Charlton, and today our guest is Stacy Bartels from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to talk about the benefits of teleworking. Stacy is the manager of the Office of Marketing and Commuter Services. She's responsible for managing TDM activities and outreach programs across the region, including the Mobility Alternative Program, which we lovingly call MAP. Hi, Stacy. Welcome.
Hello, Cecile.
And tell me, what does the DVRPC do?
So we are in charge of planning for the greater Philadelphia region, and that includes 4 counties in New Jersey, 5 in Pennsylvania, and we're designated as the Metropolitan Planning Organization by the federal government. So we kind of take a sky-high view of planning in the region, and that means transportation planning, environmental planning. We do some economic development work, a little bit of everything, but we keep our eye on the bigger picture, and that's pretty much what it is.
And about how many employees work there? And you're in Philadelphia, correct?
Yes, we're in actually Old City. I was going to say Center City, but Old City. And we have about 115 employees right now.
Can you describe for me the general employee breakdown of commute mode, bike, walk, transit?
Because of the kind of work we do, we have a lot of people who are very engaged with alternate commute. So actually about 90% of our employee pool do some type of alternate commute, walking, biking, taking transit, most of it. We have very few who drive on a regular basis, but I would say the majority of the people who don't drive also do take transit. We have a lot of people who live in the city. So for them, a commute to work means using transit, or if they're lucky enough, walking.
Okay, now before COVID, what was the percentage of employees that actually were physically in the office?
I would say on any given day, it was probably about 75%, because we do have a telework program. So some people were out. It's not everybody on the same day. And we do field work occasionally. So some people were out doing field work or at meetings, that kind of thing.
And was there like any one person or any one department that typically teleworked?
No, pretty much if your job allowed it, meaning what you do on a daily basis was compatible with telework, you could apply to be allowed to do telework. And it was usually 1 day a week.
So during COVID, describe the overview of the corporate instructions in the wake of the governor's orders.
Well, we stayed home.
Yeah.
That's what the governor said, and the New Jersey governor did too. So because we're by state, we have to look at both states, and both governors were saying, if at all possible, stay home. It was beneficial that we had a telework program in place. Now, not everybody participated in it, but we knew how to run one, and in general, our employees understood what that meant. So we are actually still mostly working from home, even 5 months later, because that is still the stay at home if you can, and we all pretty much can. So that's what we're continuing to do.
And did you see the DVRPC's priorities change as the shutdown extended? Were more departments involved? Were different meetings maybe changed?
Well, all of a sudden now it was every employee, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, but every employee 5 days a week. So that was a big culture change, I think, for most employers, and even for us. We do a lot of Zoom meetings, not just with our partners, but internally. Our senior management has made a concerted effort to keep us together by planning events, having staff meetings, having breakout meetings. Our unit that I am in, we also have regular meetings. So I think managers overall took to this pretty well and really worked to engage the employees, even though we're not together physically.
And that goes along with the problem that a lot of companies have, is deciding who can telework, who can't telework. And give me some example or job descriptions where the DVRPC considered maybe somebody couldn't telework.
Well, one small division that we have are our traffic counters. So when you see a little cord across the road and a little box, that's what it's doing. It's counting the number of cars and types of vehicles, how many axles they have. So we have a dedicated employee pool. I think it's 4 or 5 who go out and do that all over the region. They check the boxes, they lay them down, they pick them up. So obviously that's kind of a physical work, and they weren't able immediately to adapt to the telework situation. However, because we also didn't feel it was necessarily safe for them to be out and about in the field, even though it's outdoor work, for a period of time, they were then working on analytics, kind of just assembling the data that they collect in those boxes. Now we have planners and modelers who take that data and process it, use different formulas to make predictions, but the traffic counters were able to do some of the more basic data collection and combining it for a time. Now they're back on the road with masks, all of that good stuff, but they're back on the road doing our traffic counts, because it's important that we also count how little traffic there was during the initial shutdown and how things are coming back slowly.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, considering the current reopening and green phase, is the DVRPC still involving telework options for the foreseeable future?
Yes, and we are not having any in-person meetings at our facility until the end of September, and we are continuing to telework as possible. In fact, we can go into our building, and because we are the American College of Physicians building, they've put in even more stringent requirements for us. So it's not an easy thing to go into the building, but we can if we need to. We need to be screened, we need to fill out forms, and we have to kind of make a reservation so that they know who's coming in and when. So that's a little different. We have some people who are doing that, but only occasionally. And again, still most people are going to be teleworking at least through Labor Day, probably after, and we'll just see how it's going, because so far it's been pretty successful.
So hopefully all this will end at some point. And what are the plans for post-COVID work schedules? Does the DVRPC have anything in mind at this point?
I think we're going to see more regular, more often teleworking. And I think that applies to a lot of employers. Employers who may have been skeptical about it were still forced to do it. And now they see that it can work. And it has worked under kind of the worst conditions, really, because it's not how we would want employers to set up a telework program. But now that they understand it can work, they will be more interested in making it permanent and long-term. And I think we're going to see more people working off-site and probably more days a week than we at DVRPC had been doing prior to COVID.
Yeah, they can also save money, I'm sure, on rental space.
And just general heating and cooling of the area, of the office area and everything. So yeah, definitely.
So in your opinion, what are some of the positive outcomes that you've seen since the telework mandate?
I think everybody who has had to have meetings on Zoom or Google Hangouts or the many different formats that we use, we're getting really proficient with that. And again, it was forced on us, but that's okay because we've learned now. So I think that's a beneficial thing, because now we can all use that going forward. We've also seen more effective daily scheduling. So instead of kind of random meetings here or there, or not checking on people's schedules if they could make a meeting or something, it's very conscious when we set up meetings. And when we have a project to discuss or a task to discuss, we make it a point to do that. So I think everybody has learn to schedule more effectively, and also schedule the time we need to do the work, not just meet about the work, but do the work. I think that's been helpful as well. And I think that's something that can carry on whether you're in the office or whether you're teleworking.
So do you think that DVRPC has realized any increased appreciation and benefits from the telework policy, and are administrators willing to embrace the concept like past COVID?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. We've always been a company that values work-life balance for our employees, and I think we've seen even more of that. Again, this was a forced and not ideal situation where there were working parents who now had to serve as teachers' aides for their kids or childcare providers because all of the schools and daycare were closed. That's not ideal, but we've seen people to do that by scheduling time during the day for those purposes and then working other hours, you know, to finish some work. But people have adapted pretty well. Hopefully that won't be the case going forward, that they will have to do triple duty, but they know they can. And our workplace has been flexible enough to allow them, you know, if you put these are the hours you're going to be available during the day, and then you'll use other hours, either it's early in the morning or late in the evening to get other work done, that's fine too. So I think that there has been an increased appreciation for it and that work-life balance. And I think parents have appreciated that too, as we've all adjusted. So.
Right, as they learn Common Core math, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So can you give me some personal insight on your experience going from, you know, office worker to home-based worker full-time?
I was doing 1 day a week for about 3 years. And I enjoyed that because even though some employers may not think so, employees tend to get more done on the days they telework.
Yes.
And I appreciated those days because not only could I schedule a dental appointment or something like that where it would only take me 10 minutes to get to and from instead of having to take a whole afternoon off, right? But I did get more work done. There were no interruptions. I purposely scheduled meetings so I didn't have people coming into to my space, you know, talking, which there's nothing wrong with that because that kind of cooperative thinking and relating is good. But on the telework days, I found that I could get a lot more done. And now I think everybody's kind of in that rhythm. We would like to see each other in person. We miss each other, but we are able to make it work this way and do it effectively. That's the good thing. Like our work has not suffered because of this, which is really the bottom line for most employers.
Exactly. So tell me some of the challenges maybe you personally have encountered.
I do miss the interaction with my fellow employees a lot. We try and make time. It's great. It's not quite the same, but it suffices for now. Some of the other things, so I have or had 2 college-age students home over the summer. Well, they came home mid-March as well. So during this whole time, we had some bandwidth issues at first. We got that worked out, but just workspaces because we do kind of have an office area that's for 1 person, and now we had 4 people who were working from home. But we found little nooks and places in our home to do. So I think that was another kind of challenge, and I think a lot of people dealt with that as well. But again, now we're kind of into each other's schedules. We know who's going to be working at what time and where. So even that has been smoother than I would have thought.
So what are the benefits? I'm sure there were benefits.
Well, I got to say, as much as I enjoy not driving to my office, I even appreciate more not having to commute at all, especially in the summer.
Right.
Because it's just so hot. And I get to the office because I don't drive. I get to the office sometimes and I'm like, woo, thank heavens for air conditioning. Here I don't have to do that. That also gives you a little bit more time in your day as well, too, depending on how long your commute is. My sister drives 10 minutes to her job, but that's rare, actually. So it gives me more time before and after my workday to do things around the house or to help my kids with something or whatever needs to be done. It gives me some extra time, and I appreciate that as well.
Well, Stacy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And this is a wonderful example of incorporating a partial telework plan into a fully remote work plan that works for both the employer and the employee. I'd like to thank Stacy Bartels for joining us today in Commuter's Corner and educating us on how the DVRPC helps to manage alternatives to transportation commuting. This and all of our episodes are available on our website at the at our website at the dctma.org. Too many DCs in there.
Yeah.
The DCTMA TV heading. Join us next time for another informative topic. And remember, whether you commute by bike, walk, public transit, or carpool, commute safely. And again, thank you.
Thank you.